I'd like to announce to our country that the SEZ board, together jointly with our board members who are comprising of Treasury Planning, IRC, Customs, together with the Commerce and Industry and the Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Department of Commerce and Industry, we will do a awareness on the process of application to get a SEZ license through the district and the requirements that are contained in the Act, so all our enterprises and our private sector in country can be able to tap into the incentives, tax incentives and other fiscal incentives and other incentives that are contained currently within the Act. They can already benefit from, targeting downstream processing and exportation of our locally made produce to other countries. In line with that, SEZ authority and the board signed an agreement with the only regulator in Philippines, which is called the Philippines Economic Zone Authority, already last month, for us to jointly work together to develop our working relationship, our capacity, and also the regulations and the rules that we can establish in our country to supply the Asian market through the network and the relationships already established in Philippines. So we are going forward. Indonesia is next, and also China is next. We have relationships with them, and also Japan that have come on board recently, as of last week. So with that, thank you very much, media, for coming. If there's any questions, we can take those questions now. Thank you, Drew.
Sorry, one question.
Yes.
How much of an awareness has been going around on SEZs? Not many people in the country are aware of SEZs. And besides that, investors come into the country, and our people are left alone or are forgotten many times. So, these are districts and provinces that are going to be involved in SEZs.
That's right.
What's the awareness? What do people know about SEZ? We can't just bring investors and get them to develop the land and start making businesses and all these things. I know there are government regulations and regulatory body that should carry these things like you said. We have to follow the due process, but what's the awareness and how do people
can add on to that? As you are aware, the office was established back in 2021. The Act was passed in 2019. The first budget approved for the office functions was this year. So it has taken some time to establish the office. Going forward, our leaders, Minister Maru and the Prime Minister, have done great awareness drive out there, and also the EU SEZ project have shown us what are the challenges in setting up SEZ. So because of that, the board appreciates and considers those lessons learned. The PMIZ is one of those lessons learned. The other experiences out there that we have gone through, it's not new. SEZ's types of SEZ has been in the country for the last 30 years. It's now unifying all the efforts that every actors have done in different district provinces, setting up a criteria. That is why the Japanese Development Institute came to help us to set up a master plan and a criteria that our districts and the provinces the process can go through. Culminating to all the experiences, Minister Maru and Miti and the Prime Minister have done a great job, a fabulous job, setting up the SEZ Summit, and that was held in April of this year. And that brought stakeholders from the important stakeholders all over the country. And it's important to know that SEZ is for enterprises that are in serious business trying to export to the overseas market, our PNG made goods. They have to be aware of that. As a result of that, the Chamber of Commerce is on board on this one. They have manufacturing representative in the Chamber of Commerce. For that reason, it is important that our awareness now, as we have announced, targets the Chambers of Commerce in the respective districts and the provinces, so that is a convenient for us to build on existing businesses that are already on the ground. New businesses will take some time. There are critical enablers that are required. Road, electricity, bridges, land must be secured before we ask investors to come. Investors are not only international investors, they are also local investors. So there are three types of SEZ. There are public SEZ, which governments can come, subnational governments, provinces, districts, just like what EU is doing. That's a public SEZ. Then we have a joint venture between those two, public, private. Then we have a private sector SEZ. This private sector can be foreign, can be local as well. So the opportunity is there. As you are aware from the summit, the best practices have been established. We have SEZ master plan, we have a draft policy, we have the institution that has now been set up, and with those requirements and prerequisites, before we go out and do awareness, so that there is an office, there is an application process, there is there are investors out there that want to come in. How do they connect with our local businesses out there? So we have to match and connect these investors to our local business. Law and order is an issue. Those are the areas that it's within the criteria, the master plan that was developed by the Mara Barroso government through the assistant of the Japanese Development Institute earlier on this year. Directors?
Yeah, awareness and marketing is part of the ongoing work. At present, we are putting in the frameworks and capacitating the SEZ office. As you know, budget just came this year. But I think we've made a huge stride in those areas in putting together and setting up the office, and negotiating and talking with competent authorities like Customs, IRC for incentives, and of course staging through the Ministry for International Trade and Investment, staging the international summit. The international summit saw the attendance of well over 300 participants that came from districts, provinces, and elsewhere. SEZ is a work in progress. So one of the things I would like to see would be an active marketing and investment strategy. We will be doing, as mentioned by Chairman, a roadshow as part of the marketing and awareness of SEZ through the provinces. But at the moment, we are establishing the capacity of the SEZ to progress the concept and the idea forward for SEZ with the intention of getting developers and operators to be involved in the concept. Part of the strategy for SEZ now is to work on an international marketing and engagement strategy. As mentioned by Chairman, it's not only the local developers, but you have to think of the international developers that would like to come into the country and bring in the much needed FDIs. So you cannot expect them to know the country and understand what is there for them. I think we have to take PNG and SEZ out there to tell them that, hey, we have that thing going in the country, and these are the sort of reliefs and incentives that if you come and set up shop in PNG is a good country for you to set up shop and do an export market-oriented activity within the country. So these are the sort of work in progress that SEZ is going on. But within a short period of time, I think we've come up with a draft strategy. We've come up with the policy framework. They're under review and they'll be confirmed. The SEZ Act, again, I think is undergoing review, and there will be some amendments to it. But at the same time, we are working on a greater strategy for reaching out and engaging with key stakeholders within the provinces and the districts, and that will be rolled out very soon.
Just one more question. You said something about using existing businesses already operating in the country, and this is in terms of infrastructure, because you need infrastructure in order to carry out an SEZ. Has anyone reached out yet from the existing businesses or shown interest to perhaps apply for a license? And also during the launching of SEZ, we had probably a district or a province that presented some money to do a feasibility study.
Yes.
And also,
yes.
is there an amount if you want to apply for an amount that you can pay for a license?
Oh yes, yes. I think those details we can present it to the media. It's the fee schedule is there for the applications and so forth. That will be done through our website. But yes, we have many local companies that have shown interest, and applications have been already given out. So they are working on the applications to submit back to the board, and we intend to move that forward. But as you are aware, the Minister has been also doing a lot of awareness and championing the SEZ agenda across the country together with the Prime Minister. And there's important import substitute companies such as River Rice and others that are really interested to submit the application process, and that will go through the due diligence, the appraisal process, and we'll grant them license based on our approval and the criteria. But CEO, you might want to say something on that.
Yes, I think we have received application criteria to the existing companies as well as the foreign direct investors, and we have received a few applications, and some are still working on it, and it will go through the board. Licenses will be issued based on the criteria established under the Act.
I understand that the concept might not be new to others, but perhaps for the wider population it's probably a new concept. Not many people know about SEZs.
Yes.
And that's why awareness is really important.
That's right.
You said using existing businesses, but what if there's a new landowners decide to use it as a SEZ? Do you need to carry out feasibility studies and other things?
Of course, it's a business case. Yeah. Everything is a business case. It's market driven, private sector driven. Every investor will always have a return on investment, and they have their strategies and plans outlined. And every investor will see that they will need permits, and they will need, for example, environment permits, building board permits. They would need to do some imports coming in to build their facilities. Those are the areas that we will work together with those enterprises. That's why Chamber of Commerce is very important in each of the districts and provinces. Lay Chamber of Commerce, where our townships are, those chambers of commerce are important. They are important entities for the local businesses to connect, and also it's an important entry point to ensure that there is prudency and there is confidence in those businesses that are trying to take part in developing SEZs. Our local landowners, if they set up their landowner companies, that is advisable, so that they can also unlock their land for development. They just have to find a good investor, a market in which they can sell their produce and type of produce they want to manufacture to the international market, or as import substitute to the local market. Yes.
I think in relation to your question, the opportunities for SEZ development involving landowners is immense. If landowners have private land, nothing stops them to partner with public bodies. In this case, maybe a public authority or provincial government, to make available the land to be an SEZ enclave through a commercial arrangement. So the opportunity is immense. We don't do that. We can give them advice to do that. We are more concerned with the licensing part and the regulation part. But as I said, the opportunities are immense for landowners to be involved in the SEZ. I think one of the biggest challenges is for us to advise them properly in looking at what kind of assets they have, for example land, and how they can be properly used within the conduit of SEZ development, either with the private developer or allowing the land to be used with the private developers through some kind of commercial arrangement, or it might be through a government entity if it's a public SEZ. So the opportunities are there. In relation to your question on companies for export, there are experiences in other countries whereby national companies who are really involved in a particular industry in exports, but they want to grow the company. And those companies can be also taken under the ambit of a declared SEZ. By doing so, you incentivize the the local company and you make it bigger so you can export more and then more revenue for the country. There are cases in the Philippines and in other areas. In PNG, I'm thinking of a couple of companies already. Like talking to you now, I can think of a number of companies who are struggling. They're involved in exports, but they're struggling. We can incentivize them, but I think it's a matter for SEZ and those companies to sit down and talk and say, look, how far we can go. So, the role of Special Economic Zone Authority is to emphasize on exports, downstream processing, where we provide a range of incentives to people who come into this country or already existing players, maybe national or local players that are already here. So we assist them to increase exports and in so doing improve the balance of trade for the country, and in so doing bring in much needed revenue back into the country and therefore develop the country as a whole. So that's long-term thinking. Some people think that SEZ is a 2-minute noodles concept where you start it now and it cooks in the next 2 minutes and you eat. It's not like that. Countries who have experimented and who have experienced SEZ, in the Philippines it's over 30 years, all right, to see the real benefits of it. So it's a long-haul investment. It's consistently investing in that and ensuring that you go along and continue to do it every year. So the sustainability of effort in SEZ should be an ongoing long-term thing if we really want to see benefits in this country.
Like you said, it takes years
Of course.
to get it right or to see the benefits. Is this why you're going to be using some of the existing businesses like Rigo Rice, or have you already partnered with local companies to take SEZ forward?
We're thinking of a number of companies for us to talk to, and I think we're not at liberty to disclose those companies with you. I think they're already in the export business. At the moment, some of them are struggling, but I think they hold huge potential to increase export earning and downstream processing. So they need a little bit of push under the banner of SEZ so that they can be given a range of incentives that they would not normally found in the normal market space.
I was going to ask about the financial benefit that might come with it if you're going to use existing businesses like Rigo Rice, because they might be going through some financial problems, like you said.
So if a company comes to us and let's say they have an SEZ license, then we'll be looking at a whole range of things. One of the things that we'll be looking at is the cost of inputs. They would import inputs in order to produce something in the country, machinery, parts of ingredients that would go into the product. We import from overseas. So if they fall under the rubric of SEZ and they have a SEZ license, the ideal case would be they will be given concessional treatment in terms of tariffs that apply to the imports. So when people talk about SEZ, think about SEZ, it's a country within a country. The set of rules and the companies that operate within an SEZ enclave, the set of commercial rules, tax, import permits, things like that do not apply. The concessional rules apply in that SEZ enclave. That's why for a company to operate in an SEZ, you are incentivized. And so you can, in other words, you have a very good competitive advantage compared to the other competitors that exist in the normal market. But one of the reasons why the government's emphasis on SEZ is simply because they want to improve downstream processing. They want to improve exports and, more importantly, get the much needed export earnings back into the country so that it is invested back into the country and allows the economy to grow.
And the synergies with having a peer SEZs in other jurisdictions and the agreements that the chairman alluded to, there are a whole range of benefits, because then you have a concessions here, and if you also set up shop, let's say in Philippines, you also have concessions there. So there are synergies with having one body here, and that's why I talked about sovereignty of the state. And then if you have one in Philippines, then you have that peer relationship. If you have multiples, then it becomes difficult. But that's the added advantage of having one regulatory body, having an arrangement on MOA or MOU with a peer SEZ in another jurisdiction, which is already there in place, and they've, like the chair, deputy chair said, they've got a 35, 40-year head start, and it has taken government, their respective governments, a lot of commitment into capital expenses in the infrastructure to have that enabling environment. So, like he said, once again I quote him, it's not 2 million noodle thing. There's a massive government commitment and capital expense that goes with it. So, for those who are aspiring to be in that space, come, if you have any queries, come to SEZ. They can assist you to better understand the dynamics, so that you can be able to meaningfully participate.
Recently, the International Trade and Arctic Cooperation, the government and the Arctic Cooperation signed an MOU to set up a SEZ maybe in Medan to set up some canneries for downstream processing of tuna. So, how long will it take for the SEZ to be established, and just give an update on
that? The arrangement is on foot. The infrastructure is already there. Arituna is in operation, so it will come to us to give an SEZ license. I think the National Fisheries Authority with our minister, they're actively involved in that, and so they have our full support. The due diligence process will take effect, so the applications will be made to us. But I think in terms of the enabling infrastructure, they on prima facie evidence on what exists on the ground, as you can see now, I think they meet the requirement. But if they come through SEZ, they will have to go through the process of meeting the due diligence test. And the reason why we meet due diligence test is if you don't have that test, then any Tom, Dick and Harry and their dog can set up an SEZ around the country. You cannot declare an enclave to be an SEZ whereas there is no enabling infrastructure, and thinking that you just declare and you can get a whole range of benefits and tax incentives. It doesn't work that way. There must be due diligence tests and see whether the place, the developer, the enabling environment is right to allow the SEZ to take off. As to the PMIZ in Medan, the enabling environment is there. And so I think there's massive support from the government and massive support from the National Fisheries Authority. So I think our thinking is that it will be one of the successful SEZ, and it's ready to go because Arctic tuna has been canning fish. So we'll just have to tweak and change a few things and all that. We will impose export quota. So the idea is to increase the export of canned fish and utilize the full production capacities. I think the existing situation now is that the full production potential of the canneries have not been fully exhausted and utilized. And so in most cases we fish and we get the fish and ship it to the Philippines or elsewhere. And they're processed there, put in the cans, and on the labeling on the cans, product of Philippines. In essence, it's product of PNG. Now we want to stop that. We're telling people that, look, through the conduit of the SEZ, let's fast track exports. Let's get our own stuff in the country. The time for us giving raw products to other people and they'll can it or reproduce it, reprocess it and sell it on their own label is over. If we don't have capacity, let's build it now. Let's move forward. Let's increase our exports. So PMIZ and the canning thing follows that line of thinking.
For the PMIZ, are you looking forward to work with the SEZ authority and the Tuna Corporation, or what is there any possibility which Fisheries Authority can come into play, or just
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, there's three types of SEZs. One is a public SEZ, one is a joint venture between public and private, and one is a private SEZ. SEZ authority is the regulator. So the actors out there, maybe the public sector, such as NFA, National Fisheries Authority,
RD Canning,
and MITI. there's a
Kind of joint venture arrangement.
public-private joint venture arrangement. The process is that when the application is submitted, we review the application, as Deputy has said. A due diligence takes place based on merit of the application. Then we issue the license within 3 months. That's the process. Upon submission to the final issuance of the license will take 3 months. When we issue the license, then they are eligible to benefit from the suite of incentives that are laid out in the Act. So when they import, there's exemptions on tariff. When they export, there's exemptions on export tariffs. There's also tax exemptions on corporate income and also personal income on a sliding scale from 40 to 80%. So that's a type of arrangement that RD and I would imagine. But we haven't seen the application. I haven't seen the application coming yet. We are expecting the application to come very soon. I think those are one of the key important projects that the government is focusing on in the project, as well as import subsidies. But the question about the existing facilities, those are also eligible to be given SEZ license as long as they can display the additionality, the amount of job created, and the export volume if the tax exemptions are granted. So it's there outlined in our application process. So if they can show the additionality and how the tax exemption and incentives and the benefit will impact on their revenue streams, and give them additional market out there in the global additional market in the various regions, then we'll give them the license. So it's good because the existing business already have the infrastructure already there. It's supporting our local industry, expand their market base internationally, not to compete with our own industries locally, but compete with the global industries out there and give them the additional incentive to compete in the global scene.